Hello, how are you doing? It's very good to see you again. Well, I'm not seeing you, am I? After such a long time. Uh, yeah, who's there? There's this. If you are there, make yourself known. It'd be lovely to have a chat with you. Maybe see if any other people come in, but I've just got to arrange my screens so that I can see them. YouTube is not recording. Open Studio, let's have a look, see what's going on. It's a while since I've done this, so I'm not sure whether this is actually working. YouTube Creator. What's it saying? Open YouTube Studio. You have to bear with me while I'm looking at these problems. There's always problems with YouTube, isn't there, in live streaming? Well, if anyone actually is there, let me know if you can see me and hear me or not. What are you seeing? Let me have a look. YouTube is not doing something, it's saying, but I can't see what that actually says. Let me put that in there. YouTube Studio. I don't know. Is anybody there? Can anyone hear me? It says there's an error. I'm going to write something here. Let's have a look. See me. Okay. Anything? I can see that I've got, there is somebody viewing here, so what's going on? Anybody? Were you all annoyed that I was away for so long? Yeah. I don't know, that's weird. What's that saying? It says open YouTube Studio, but nothing happens. YouTube Creator Studio. It's not happening. Oh gosh. Is it the computer? Is it just not good enough? Not powerful enough? What is going on? It says it's streaming. YouTube is not. And then I can't read it. Let's have a look. YouTube streaming. And then it says YouTube is not available. Could be that. Because it's essential to check for account-related issues such as strikes. Correct settings. Ensured live stream is enabled on your channel. Well, it is. You update your decoder. Well, I mean, if you can hear me, it must be working. I don't know. There are people there, but I'm not sure. Can you see the chat? I put up a couple of chat messages there. Ah, Franco, thank you very, very much. I've got this error message that's come up in a big yellow streak on across my YouTube saying YouTube is not, and I think it says YouTube is not recording, but maybe it is. All right then, so I'll carry on then. So yes, so if you were used to watch this up till late last year, this live stream, you know, I apologise because I've been absent ever since, and it's various things have happened in my life, you know, health things and family things and everything, and I just didn't seem to be able to get back to it. You kind of lose impetus. Oh, thank you very much, Franco. That's very kind of you to say. That's it. No, where I should be facing there. Thank you very much, Franco. So that's it. What I'm going to do is have a look at this, the working scene here. Right, there's my sketchbook. This is the one that I've just more or less finished. And in it, I put a load of memories. You can see there, sort of people that, it's very dark, isn't it? Let's have a look there, look. You can see just memories of things that happened in my family. There's my mother taking me for a walk in London many years ago during, I suppose they were, what was it? There was a lot of pollution in London, so there was a big protest against that, and because of these motorways, they drove right through the centre of London. But this here is my grandma, and I thought I'd just have a go at painting her in acrylics, just to get back into the swing of things. So that's what I'm going to do, and what I'm going to use is these acrylics here. There you go. Put that one up there like that. Ultramarine, burnt sienna, and this is called warm bright yellow. I think that's the one, isn't it? Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, warm bright yellow. Just those three, and I'm going to do a brunaille. So if you want to watch me painting, that's what I'm going to do. Put the ultramarine blue there. Funny thing is, this is I've got 3 different brands here. This is Liquitex, Winsor and Newton, and Sennelier. They all seem to work very well together. I mean, acrylic, wherever you get it from, really. If I put this one here, burnt sienna. I'm just not going to use a palette. I'll just use the edge of my board and this one here, and mix wherever I can. All right. So where are you, Franco? Or where are you, anybody? Be nice to hear where you're viewing from, and keep me company and hang out with me. And if you do have any questions, do ask. It makes things an awful lot more pleasant, I think. That's what I like doing. I like talking to people. So look, here we go. That's my water there. So I wanted to make a dark, really. You're in Johannesburg, my God. So it's the same time zone as here, I presume. Gosh, that's so far away. What an amazing world we live in. Okay, so let's see if I can sort of get her. Even when I was sort of painting or drawing my grandmother here, it's a long time since I saw my grandmother. She passed away in the 80s, but she always used to sit there in our kitchen when I was a child, just in her own chair by the fire, and say her prayers. There was a lot of kind of whispered prayers going on. She was a Wexford woman, so the very south eastern tip of Ireland is where she was from. Oh, you're an hour ahead, right? Okay, yeah. Yeah, Johannesburg. Okay. I know very little about South Africa, and what you hear on the news. So this is the way she's going to be. There she would be in her carpet slippers. In this sort of comfy chair. Wing back chair, if you know what I mean. So the wing back chair. And I'm going to try and remember, this is the house that we lived in when I was up to about 10 years old, I suppose. It was in a place called Brentford in London. And beside her would have been the fire over here. One of those 1930s jobs. The great thing about painting in just these three blobs of paint is that you can change things at more or less at will, because you're not committing to colour. The idea is to make a grey. So you can see I'm just sort of moving things around as I find them. In that fire now, it was an old-fashioned fire, so it was meant to take a grate fire, but there was a gas stove in it. I've got it a bit close to that chair. It wouldn't have been quite like that. Maybe I can move the chair a bit back. And over here would have been the scullery door. And through there in that direction, would have been my mother working in the kitchen. There. So there would have been a doorway, which would have been, that would have been the kitchen counter in there. So we don't need another part of that door, but over this side would have been the kitchen table, and with my dad sitting at it reading a newspaper. So I'm just going to get a slightly bigger brush. Do you paint yourself, Franco? I mean, how did you come across this thing anyway, this podcast? With me various ornaments on there. There used to be a clock up over here, but would be too high to depict it here. Maybe we could put a clock here. Various things. And that would have been tiled. And we used to rush down of a morning on a winter, see who'd be the first to get into that chair by the fire. So I'm expecting to paint for probably about an hour. So over here would have been an anti-macassar. I was never sure quite how to pronounce them. Anti-macassar or anti-macassar. Kind of a white cloth draped over the back of the chair. Oh, you paint watercolours, yeah. Yeah. I'm not really watercolourist. I tend to sort of stay away from watercolours. I think that they're probably the most difficult of them all, really. At the moment, I'm just trying to get in big blocks and remember the place, really. So how long is it since I was there? It's probably over 50 years since I was in that house. I'm thinking of doing a series of paintings about the London Irish, really, I suppose. You know, the Irish you fetched up in London, and usually in the 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s. They were a different breed. They were the old style people. Came from a different world. And when they went back to Ireland, it was a shock, because Ireland had changed so much. Now I can't remember what the wallpaper was like. There was wallpaper. I'll just try and keep my hand away from the. That's a bit of a glare, isn't it, on there? Let me just push that up. That's better, isn't it? Not quite so much glare there. Yeah. Means I can't see the painting as well. Right, let's do a bit of lighter tones. Face would have been tipped downwards, and she had long silvery grey hair, but all tied up in a bun. I can't remember the name of those heaters. It wasn't Burko. It was the specific name. It was wider than I have it there. And her hands there. And the poor old woman, she had gone very deaf at that stage. But she was very funny. We loved having her around. So that can go up there like that. I think it's nice when you start making stuff up, really. Or just going from very little information. It gives you kind of a freedom in a way. Now there, from the kitchen, because that was faced onto the back garden, so that can be light flooding into the kitchen. And we used to spend our time lying on the floor there, making Lego stuff, which I'm sure you did as well, or playing drafts, or making an Airfix model aeroplane from Second World War. Such fun. That can go there like that. Light coming there, light coming onto the side of the chair. Light hitting the side of the chair there. And then, I'll tell you what about acrylics. They drag for the first while. I can feel it dragging on the. This is paper I'm painting on, by the way. And then, so when the layers start to build up, it starts getting much easier to paint. I used to do all my illustration work in acrylics, and occasionally watercolor, but not like a proper watercolorist. I used to draw out what I was going to do. You know, you had to make stuff up because the newspapers wanted it so quickly. So you couldn't be sort of doing very much research. So was all done to short order, and I'd draw out the thing in pencil and then go over it in watercolor. That really worked well. I liked working that way, but my watercolors were obviously the work of a person more used to oils and acrylics. That come there, and maybe a bit of light reaching the edge of that chair there, that armrest, I should say. And she'll have on a light coloured sweater and a pink cardigan. None of this has to sort of be the colour it's supposed to be just yet. Because if I make this is a brunaille that I'm painting, which is basically a monochrome painting. So you can layer the colour on afterwards. There. And then her dress would have been a darker, a skirt I should say, sort of a darker wool plaid kind of. She's got an inelegant way of holding her legs there. A minute, I must move those in a second. For the modesty, she was a woman born in 1890 after all. That was the division between the kitchen and well, we used to call this bit the kitchen and that bit the scullery. And then there'd be a skirting board there. The fire will be on, despite the sunlight. And then the fire will be casting warmth onto that side. So it'll be light but warm, really warm, reddy kind of hues I expect here too. Whereas here the light might be cool. And then we've got the antimacassar. And that can all be just sort of random kitchen white goods here. The pots and pans rattling in the kitchen. So back to a slightly smaller brush. I think stuff used to end up on the top of the heater as well. Probably not when it was on. That wouldn't have been a good idea, would it? That can go all the way over there and go there. It was a kind of a bronze colour, I remember. I can always put the, what do you call it, the ornaments on afterwards. The heater must have been put in a long time after the house was made, because the house was Victorian anyway. What kind of stuff do you paint, Franco? Do you know what? My grandmother used to make gonks. Did you ever hear of them? During the First World War, I believe, I read up on it afterwards, because we had these things that she made for us out of scraps of cloth, because she was always making stuff, and typical old country woman, you know. And during the First World War, they couldn't get children's toys. This is what I read anyway. And so they somebody came up with this idea of making children gonks. Essentially, it looked like a Humpty Dumpty, just made out of spare rags and, you know, little eyes sewn onto it and with buttons and things like that. We used to love these things. I'm not even sure if that was what everyone else called them. Gonks. I have one of them somewhere, so I'll show you what one looks like. I think it'd be a good idea to show you what it looks like. Hang on. Back in 2 shakes. Let me have a look in my collection of sketchbooks. It's here. Where are you? Just bear with me. There is one. There. Hang on. Oh, right. There. Be that kind of thing. Obviously, I've kind of fleshed it out, so it's more of a, I suppose, what do you call it? You've turned it into a kind of a living thing, rather. But the gonks were like that. They were just kind of sewn together, and yeah, you might sew a face onto the thing, and a little tuft sort of wool for the hair, that kind of thing. She made them for us. Don't know what happened to them. Yeah, there's a trip down memory lane for you. So I'm going to put in maybe a couple of features. So her downcast eyes as she was saying her prayers. And that mouth there. Maybe putting a bigger shadow down there. Was that about the gonk? Yeah, they were great. She had a hard life, that woman. She grew up on the farm, and then through one thing or another, the family lost the farm. Yeah, and she took that very hard. She ended up with us in London, which I don't think she liked London very much. We loved having her around, but she had a kind of macabre sense of humour as well. I remember her chasing us around the kitchen. Oh, not the kitchen, the whole house, in fact. And she'd put a sheet over her head and stuffed the sheet into her mouth and everything, so it kind of looked like a monster. I ended up in the bath screeching. So there, make that come down a little bit. I need to sort of resolve those legs. There, bring him in a bit. The idea, by the way, with this style of painting, if it is going to be a brunaille, you need to keep the paint flat, because you'd be glazing colour onto it afterwards. That down there can be quite dark. I can't remember what was down there. Probably some stuff stored down there. Too long ago to remember. So it can be dark. Of course, it's in the corner away from the light anyway. And then let's put some dark around here too. Being shadow cast by the chair. It's fun when you're making stuff up. I think that there was a kind of a, I don't know what you call it, a corner shaped off it. And then that will be casting a shadow as well, so that can go around thicker. That can come down there like that. Whatever that object is there can be casting a shadow. Normally I'd be using a hairdryer as well just to dry the paint a bit faster, but it seems to be drying okay, probably because it's reasonably warm today here in evening time in Dublin. There, like that. I'll be doing this again on Sunday. I've been engaged to paint something at a sauna. Would you believe? There's a guy I know who sort of works in one of these wild saunas. They call them wild saunas because they're so, you know, they're just barrel saunas. In fact, they look like the old travellers' caravans. Probably have them where you are as well. I think they come in kits. Okay, so that's there like that. That can come there like that. Let's make the light spill out from the scullery a bit more strongly. I absolutely love this colour. It's an unusual one, and only Sennelier do it, as far as I can make out. I mean, there might be some other crowd that does something like similar. There is Winsor & Newton do something called parchment, I think. No, not parchment. What am I talking about? Terracotta, pale terracotta, they call it. But it's not as good as this. I love this. Paint's starting to move on more easily now. I always find that you can start painting something, if you're not sure of what you're painting, which I'm not sure what I'm painting quite yet, that you can change it. No, I mean, I could add a dog there, or you know, if there was probably a cat in our house, maybe I will actually do that. You know, putting a little cat in the doorway. And then if that's the case, then it would be casting a shadow, wouldn't it? There like that. And go over that later. Some furniture on this thing. I think there was a vent here of some kind. I think the heat travelled up and it vented out at the top of the machine, top of the heater. Darker. I'll do this just to make things more interesting. Is it? Half. There you go. So I'll still paint it, and it means you can at least see some of me as I'm working. Don't know whether that helps or just makes you want to throw up. But there you go. That can go there like that. Some light getting onto the upper part. There was a kind of a, what do you call it? It was a step up. It was a real 1930s thing. There's a place where you could put ornaments there and here too. That needs to be out there like that as well. And then that can be like that. I need to put the ornament more in the middle. All of that can be done. So I'm feeling my way forward in this painting. My object is not to be too literal. I don't want to be too literal. I want to mess around with the perspective. I might have, maybe I've gone too correct. But that can all sort of be changed as we go on anyway. And this thing here, down here, there was a kind of a recess here. And there was an electric grid in there. So you just turn on that. Was it electric or was it gas now? No, it was gas. But there was a grid in there and some sort of stone that glows with heat, and that would glow in there. That's the way it was. It was gas. There was a gas tap somewhere around there. After this house, we moved to a place called Osterley, which is a very nice place out west of London, going towards the airport. And it was a much bigger house, much nicer. But I think all my fondest memories were here, playing on that floor. Let's work on that antimacassar a bit. And it comes up around there. And as it comes round, do you know what? That's going to have to come out further. It's a big antimacassar. And then, where it catches the light at the back, be much lighter. Okay. I'm going to go back to that scene. You don't need to see my face. That can go around there. That can have a bit of light on it too. At the moment it looks like she's leaning to her right on the chair, so let's push that around a little bit. Then her hair up in a bun. Bit more light on her shoulders. And her big slippers. The ones that kind of, they're ankle boot slippers, aren't they? With a bit of fur around the top. So there, for example. Yeah. Oops. Yes, paint is starting to flow on more easily then. And go in there. I need to do her arms a little bit. Let's get a very dark, hang on. Dark blue plus burnt sienna. The darkest dark. Head can be casting a shadow. Shadows there. See shadows in there as well. And her skirt as it's turning down over the legs there. Let's there. Actually, do you know what? Those arms came out, didn't they? So that means that kind of comes in a wee bit, cuts in. And then because of that fire, let's make sure that I can put into, so the fire would be in there, that could all be coloured in, and the fire would be catching light on these places. And her leg, that leg to a lesser extent, and her hand. You can tell I'm avoiding her face, can't you? This, now I remember, now it's all coming back to me now, this had there was a recess in there, so the tyres would build up around. That's it, that's the way it was. And then that will be catching the light from up there, so that can actually be lit up to the chair. And obviously this here, I wonder where that was. That would be lit up. More than it is at the moment. I remember there was a doorway there, but I can't remember if there was a door. Maybe there wasn't at that stage. There's probably a picture up there. That can go along there. Let's get a nice bright along there that's catching that. Now what have I done there? That is not going to be like that. That's got to come all the way down. That can be a picture of us. So in other words, it would be leaning up against that. Put a frame on it. Bring it over. And bring that over there. all of this can be refined once I know what I'm doing. That's going to be casting a shadow as well. There. Let's work on that cat. See if I can remember how a cat goes. We did have a cat in those days called Tim. It was a lovely black and white cat. Can always get a photograph of a standing cat. Won't be able to see much anyway because he's in the shadow anyway, so well, their tails can come around there like that, can't they? A little pause there and then the shadow. And he had a white bib. Obviously it can't be white. That I remember, in fact, just thinking back on it, I think that was black and white tiles. So from there, from the saddle of the doorway out, would have been black and white tiles arranged like that. So that would be good if it was dark there. I think that would make it more interesting actually. Yeah. I forgot about that until right now. I did that wrong, didn't I? I'm always doing things like that. That needs to be light. You noticed and you didn't tell me. But that's worked out because it's not going to, the cat's not going to be sitting on a black tile. That's good. It'll only be half sitting on a black tile there. That job. Yeah, that can all be done later. Refined. It's good to get the important bits in first. So that can't be like that either. So the light's going to be coming, stepping up. Oh, hey, you doing, Frankie? Oh, you're back. And I didn't even know you were away. You needn't have told me. I was just sitting there talking to myself. Never mind. So that is going to be reflecting the fire colour. Just bring that up there like that. In fact, I cannot remember if that chair was exactly like that. I think it was a simpler chair, but this will do. This is the kind of chair. So that's fine. I'm just going to move it around so I can make it more convincing. What's it like in South Africa now? Is it weather-wise? I mean, is it? It's coming. It's winter now, isn't it? No, is it? Gosh, what a daft lad I am. I can't. What would it be? Middle of winter. God. What's a South African winter like? I've often wanted to escape the Irish winter by going to South Africa. But the news is never that great coming out of South Africa, and I just kind of often wonder whether I'd be okay. I'm an awful worrier. It sounds absolutely beautiful. That doesn't need to be too. By the way, this is paper that I'm painting on. I'm not sure whether I said that. It's Sennelier paper. Is it Sennelier? It's very nice. No, it's not. It's what's that Italian brand? Fabriano. It's Fabriano. Hot pressed paper. So it's very smooth. You've got extreme temperatures, very cold nights and beautiful. It does sound great. I went to Greece earlier on this year for 10 days just after Easter, and it wasn't that warm right up until the 1st of May, and then suddenly it was like a switch going on, and the weather was beautiful. And I'm interested in history, even though I'm not very good at it, and I made sure that I ended up going to Mycenae. It was wonderful, absolutely wonderful to be standing on the spot where Agamemnon was, possibly Achilles too. I'm putting a little bit of a lighter shade there. The chair. Right. Fabriano, yes, that's right. It's watercolor paper, in fact, but hot press though. So very, very, very smooth. It's very nice to work on. That Arches paper is another one. Lovely. In fact, it's Arche, isn't it? Very interesting. You do a kind of imaginative work. Always works well on that kind of brown paper because it lends something to the painting. Really like that. There's a guy I follow on Instagram called Ramiro Clement, I think. Ramiro Clement, yeah. And he just does sketchbooks, or he just shows sketchbooks anyway, and shows himself drawing it. Really nice freedom in his work. Oh, you prime it, very good. You prime it with acrylic gesso, is it? I use acrylic gesso a lot. I primed this bit, actually, the paper that I'm working on at the moment. But very often I don't prime it at all for acrylic. And it seems to work just fine, Just paint straight onto the paper. It becomes its own gesso, I suppose. That's what I'm thinking of anyway. Let's get some light. So her forehead will be catching light. Her nose, cheekbone, catching light. Must make sure her hair comes around there like that. Yes, you had a centre parting, that's right. So that's going to be a bit darker there. She was always busy saying her prayers. On her neck. And the drawing that I did, the pencil drawing I did it last year sometime. I made it look too young, really. That can be her neck. Hands. And her Nora Batty stockings. You probably don't know who Nora Batty is, though. There was a program called Last of the Summer Wine. You should look it up on the Google. It was set in Yorkshire, in England. I'm not sure if it was set in. It was done in the 80s, so it's probably set in the 80s. And there's a character called Nora Batty, who was one of the local women in the village, and she wasn't exactly a snappy dresser. She had her stockings were had slipped down and rolled around her ankles. She was kind of the lover, because there was a bunch of old men, you see, and she was kind of like the object of these men's passion, I suppose, as elderly men. They had zips down the front. It's probably a bit too light there, but there you go. Let's put a bit of light on her hair. There's definitely getting some light coming in from the back. A bit on her ear. When she was a young woman, herself and her sisters decided to pierce their own ears, and they did it by getting a pin, running it through a flame, I suppose, and then just doing it themselves. She got such an infection that she lost a chunk of one of her ears, out of the earlobe. It was like a bite out of her ear. That's farmers for you. That's well, yeah, that's her kind of cream-coloured top, and then she's got. I'll give her pearls. Those are the days that women always wore pearls. There. Bit more light in there. That'd be the flames. So if there's more light in there, there's light reflected off the edge of that thing, of her leg, of her skirt. Enough bits of the chair. That chair would go on fire really if it was that close to the heater. Maybe we'd just say it's a special chair. We're putting in little bits of light. She can have a bit of light on her nose and on her cheek and on her chin. She wore glasses. She certainly wore them for reading. Did she wear them for general everyday? Yeah, I think she did. Yeah. Let's put a pair of 1960s glasses on her. This bloody brush is too fat. Hang on a second. We'll put a few highlights on here. And on her slippers as well, actually. So I'm just going to put my hands in front of the camera. But, and obviously that heater didn't fit snugly into that. So in fact, it was kind of set into a gap. There's something else I've just remembered as well. There was something here, but I can't fit it in now. Anyway, it doesn't matter, it's an unimportant detail. '60s British heating systems. We did have an indoor shower. No, we had an indoor bath. We didn't have a shower. We didn't have a shower until we went to the next house, actually. In this house, they had actually put a toilet inside the house, whereas and we still had the outhouse as well. You know, where you could go to the loo outside. In the Victorian manner. Yeah, I mean there'd be a bit of plaid on there, wouldn't there? Sort of, so a bit of a pattern. Not going to make too much of that. And then let's do these tiles. God, I did a painting. It was kind of like a humorous painting, but in an illustration style, of a chef being attacked by the chickens in the yard when he's going out to get one of them for the pot. So they're attempting to assassinate him. And I did the chef's trousers, you know, the ones that are checkered. My God, it took me a long time to finish that. I kind of wished I hadn't bothered when I was halfway through it. I did that while I was on holiday in France. So it was a big fat French chef. Let's see, puts in some furniture. In those days, that kitchens didn't come all the way down to the floor, so maybe some kind of press there, and another one there, and there's all that going on there. Let's have a look. There was a patterned wallpaper on that, if I remember, like there would have been on most houses in that era. I don't know what age you are, Franco, but this in my mind is kind of the end of the 1960s. Before I went to school. Hang on, what year did I actually start school? I was born in 62. So 67, I suppose. You were born in... You are 72 years of age, right? Okay. So you remember all this crap. Have you always lived in South Africa? Johannesburg. Were you born there? Cleaning up some of this stuff here, so that can be quite dark. Up behind Grandma. Right. A POW from the Italian army, I presume, or navy. That looks like your name. I don't know, but the bun she had was never that big. It's more like it, probably more to the back of her head. That she can cast a shadow there. North Africa. I just read a book. It was very funny. I met this man. My mother was from Wexford. She was from Wexford. My mother moved back to Wexford. I think she moved back to Wexford because I moved to Dublin, and she wanted to be over here from London. You know, so she came back home, so to speak. And she was ailing, and we needed to get her into a place that could look after her. And I went in to visit this place, a very lovely place with a good reputation in a retirement home in Wexford town. And I said, you know, would it be possible to talk to somebody who was actually staying here? And it said, yeah. She said, go and talk to Jimmy. Jimmy's upstairs, and somebody took me in. And there was this old fella lying in his bed, and he was just colouring in. You can buy these colouring in books. They're colouring in books for adults. So there's all sorts of things like patterns and scenes, loads of different things. But he was telling me that he had been in the British Navy. He was an Englishman, and that he married an Irish woman and moved over here, but he loved being in that place because he had been in the Navy, and you know, I suppose he's slightly institutionalised, so he absolutely he thought it was great to be, you know, told when he was having his dinner and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, it turns out that he was in the branch of the Navy that dealt with mines, and he just missed the Second World War. He was just a little bit young for it, but he was involved in the clearing up of the mines in the Solent, you know, between France and Britain. And he was on the same boat. His commander was a man, believe it or not, called Buster Crabbe. They called him Buster. I can't remember what his actual name was, but his nickname was Buster. It was Commander Crabbe, and he was the supposedly the British Navy's top frogman. You know, he was a diver, and he'd basically taught himself because they weren't very good at that kind of thing, but the Italians were, and so he had to go up during the war against the Italian frogmen in Gibraltar, and they had the best of equipment, and he had to sort of basically steal theirs. Or I was reading the book about him; it was fascinating. He had to steal theirs, or basically bring it back to be, you know, to be taken apart and learned from, and eventually, I suppose, they got to where they wanted, but they always admired the Italian frogmen, and you know, it was kind of good to see there was real mutual respect. And in fact, he, in the end, got involved in some escapade after the war, so during the Cold War, when the Russians sailed, you know, on a diplomatic mission, I suppose, sailed in one of their big submarines to visit Portsmouth Harbour, and they said, if anyone comes out to try and spy on this boat, because it had some kind of propulsion system which was, you know, novel, and what the Allies didn't have, and of course he kind of was taken on to do this, go and spy on this machine, and he went down. He was never seen again. But it could very well have been that he was, you know, he died because he was badly prepared and probably drunk, because he was a notorious alcoholic. It's all in this book, you know, with 2 books in fact. But I'd heard of him before. He's a very famous character. I'd heard him long before I ever met Jimmy in Wexford. And yeah, he had sailed with him. Thought he loved him. He thought he was a great guy. It's amazing when you meet people like that, the things that they've done in their lives. I mean, I'm going to have to get a smaller brush for this. This is a small painting, so. Do you know what I didn't do? What was it in those days? They were all smoking. She was always smoking. My mother was, and Dad were always smoking. She's going to have a cigarette in her hand. It's the truth. That's what they used to do. So I won't put it hanging out of her bottom lip. Maybe it'd be there like that, and then we're going to have a little bit of a plume coming out. That'll do. Maybe thicken up those sides. She looks very severe. I'm going to have to change that in another in the next sweep over this painting, as I start to what do you call it, just finesse it a bit, I suppose, and figure out what I'm going to do here with the walls and other kinds of furniture around. But that's my grandma sitting in the grandma's chair by the heater with Tim the cat there. Don't know whether to put sort of a figure sort of here in the kitchen with my mum. Yeah, I've got to figure out, try and remember what used to go on top of here. There are all sorts of knickknacks and stuff like that, and probably pictures there. Yeah. So Franco, I'm going to head off. I think that'll do it for this evening. Let me just move. Yeah, there you go. What do you think of that? Let's have a look at it. I'm tired now. I didn't get much sleep last night, and I also want to get something to eat. So I'm going to go off to eat. I know you're going to paint now. You tap something out on the text, and then I'll say good night to you. And thank you very much. You sat that one out very well. You're very, you know, you're very patient. Not at all. I mean, have you ever painted like that before? I don't know. Some people only paint from things, from life. You know, like Lucian Freud. He refused to call himself an artist. I think, if my memory serves, and he said, I'm a painter, and he just painted things from life. Never made anything up, and I always think it's really good to make things up and you know, mess around with the medium. Although I don't do too much missing. Look at Ramiro Clement anyway on Instagram. Listen, Franco, it was great to meet you, and do maybe subscribe to whatever this is, like it, and maybe I'll see you the next time. I want to do one of these a week. I stopped doing it because I just wasn't feeling great, and you know the way it is, and then I kind of lost the habit of it, and I probably lost a load of subscribers because of it, which I apologise for, but that's the way I felt. But I have been painting all this time, and yeah, and if you look up my let me see, yes, up there, look, where is it? How do I do this? There's my website there, up in the top of the corner of the screen, and you know, join up and have a look at the other stuff. Most of it's done much the same way. Much of it is just made up or you know, invented from something. So thank you very much, Franco. Have a lovely evening, and I hope to see you next time. And you know, get in touch. You know, if there's anything I can sort of help you with, or you know, talk about, I'm here. All right. Take care of yourselves, and bye bye.